Alright, let me show you my favorite camera movements with the DJI Pocket 3. These are very simple to do, and I guarantee you that if you master these movements, your videos will look much better. Let's start. The first and simplest camera movement is the push in, pull out, also known as the dolly. This camera movement works really well when you want to emphasize a specific detail in the scene, showcase a symmetrical location, or reveal the background when pulling the camera out from your subject. To achieve this movement, you need to set the gimbal mode to tilt locked so the camera won't move left and right. Hold the camera roughly at chest level the gimbal with the ground, and walk with the camera either forwards or backwards, or hold it in your hands and push it in or pull it out. To make this movement look more interesting, try to place your subject right in the center with a symmetrical composition or leading lines when possible to guide the eye, and position the camera as close as possible to foreground elements like leaves, trees, rocks, or people to emphasize the camera movement as much as possible. Additionally, you can lock the focus on the camera to the background by using single focus mode to prevent the camera from focus hunting. And also you can rotate the camera 90 degrees to the left or right and use the same principles as before, except this time the movement is going to be from the side rather than in front. This is often referred to as a side tracking shot. The next camera movement is the push up, pull down, also known as the up down boom. This camera movement works really well when you want to reveal a subject, show a landscape, or transition from a higher point of view to a lower one, and vice versa. To achieve this camera movement, you again need to set the gimbal mode to tilt locked. Make sure the gimbal is leveled to the ground. Hold the camera above your head and pull it down, or hold the camera below your waist and push it up. To get the best results while moving the camera, try to keep it as parallel to the ground as possible. Use foreground elements to emphasize the camera movement, and if you have the option, use a selfie stick to bring the camera higher, and while pulling it down, try to squat to make the camera movement much smoother. Also, you can try moving the camera in a diagonal direction sometimes just to mix it up. This looks especially good when combined with foreground elements to reveal your subject, and try combining this camera movement with the previous dolly camera movement to achieve dynamic looking results. For example, you can hold the camera above your head with a selfie stick and start moving backward while pulling the camera down, creating a very dynamic looking shot. The next camera movement is the orbit, also known as the arc shot. This camera movement works really well when you want to emphasize your subject, create a tense energy feel, or evoke a sense of dizziness. To achieve this camera movement, you have two options. The first option is to set the gimbal mode to tilt locked, then double tap on the screen to start tracking your subject and walk in a 360-degree rotation around it. With this option, the camera will automatically keep the subject in the center for you. If your subject is not in the center, you can use the joystick to reposition it. However, this option is not the most reliable, especially if you're moving quickly with the camera, because it can lose focus on the subject. Now, the second option is less automated. For this one, you're not going to rely on the camera's tracking. Instead, you're going to track the subject manually by setting the gimbal mode to follow, the rotational speed to fast, then walk in a 360-degree rotation around it while keeping it in the center as much as possible. This one is a bit harder to master, but in most cases it delivers much better results. Bonus tip: switch the camera to slow motion to further emphasize the camera movement, and once in a while position the camera lower than the subject to make it appear bigger. The next camera movement is the slide. This camera movement works really well when you want to track a subject horizontally or reveal a subject from a foreground element. This camera movement is usually done with a camera slider, but you can replicate it with the Pocket 3 by setting the gimbal mode to tilt locked, leveling it to the ground, and moving it horizontally from left to right and vice versa. To get the best results, try moving the camera slowly and in a horizontal direction as much as possible, and use foreground elements to emphasize the camera movement or reveal your subject. Also, try shooting in slow motion to make the movement as smooth as possible. Finally, here are a couple of bonus tips to take your Pocket 3 shots to the next level. First of all, try to implement reveal shots to make your camera movements more interesting. To execute a reveal shot, all you need to do is hide the camera behind a foreground element like a tree, a wall, or anything that will cover the camera completely, and then slowly reveal your subject with any camera movement you prefer. My preferred one is the slide or up-down boom. Also, you can use focus to reveal your subject by manually focusing on the foreground and then focusing back to the subject or background. Next, try using the Pocket 3's tracking features to easily execute tracking shots with the camera movements I've mentioned before. For example, you can do a backward tracking shot by standing in front of your subject, double tap on the screen to start tracking, and then moving backward while the subject moves towards the camera, resulting in a very dynamic looking shot. Other things you can do include mixing camera movements together to create even more interesting shots, holding the camera with two hands to keep the gimbal as steady as possible, doing the ninja walk as much as you can to get the best stabilization results, and slightly tilting the camera forward when holding it in your hands to make it easier for the gimbal to stabilize your shots. Also, don't forget to use the correct camera settings and manually expose your shots as much as you can to get the best results, and shoot in D-Log M to have the most flexibility in post-production when color grading. If you're interested, I have actually released 6 new LUTs for the Pocket 3 and Action 4 to make color grading easier for you. I'm going to leave a link for them down below. Thanks for watching. Take care.